One of the aspects of consulting that you have to get it right at the very beginning is on how to write a consulting agreement. I have been a consultant for over 10 years now, and I would say that I've seen the importance of having a consulting agreement from the very beginning. Reason being, I remember when I started, there are instances where I would meet these potential client, we get into a discussion on what they are looking for, we gel, there's excitement for both sides. There are all these questions that arises, and either they say we didn't agree on this, or maybe sometimes I want to charge them more, or a lot of conflict in between, simply because we weren't very clear from the beginning. And so I would highly encourage you, now that you're looking to get into consultancy, to know how to write a consulting agreement. You come up with the agreement first, the client goes through it, and you agree on the terms by making sure that both parties sign off to the agreement. So a consulting agreement is really, really important. And there are instances where you meet some clients who are really not ethical. You do the work, and if you don't have a watertight agreement, payment becomes an issue. And just like I had said also at the introduction, a consulting agreement, it will help you also reduce the dispute that may arise, either during the consultancy or even when you're done with the consultancy. So today I want us to look at what do you need to include when you're coming up with a consulting agreement. And here I'll look at if you're coming up with your own template, because sometimes you could be working for an institution that they have their own template and they would want you to use that. A good example is the UN and also the World Bank. They do have their own template, and so even if you send them theirs, they will ask you still, okay, we require you to send you your agreement in this format. So let's look at a typical consulting agreement and what it should contain, the must-have. So number one, always make sure that, because this is an agreement, it's a legal document, it should be dated. The next information that I would include is who are we? And here it's about us. Be brief as possible and only mention the services or what products that you offer that are relevant to the client. For example, if myself, we do offer HR consultancy services, and it's a broad service. We offer recruitment, we offer performance management, salary processing, recruitment, headhunting, and all that. So if a client comes to us and they're looking for training services, that is what we emphasize on. Which brings me to my third point. Your agreement should also contain your qualifications and expertise. And like I said in the second point, emphasize on what the client is looking for, because remember that agreement, it's more or less to cover the legal aspect, but also to affirm to the client that you are the right person for the job. So focus on your expertise, write something briefly about your expertise, focusing again on the needs of the client. The other thing I include in our consulting agreement, it's not a must you have these, especially now if you've already agreed, if the client is already sold, is include clients. Who are your clients, either current or past clients. But this is not, it's not a deal breaker, especially if you've already gotten the consent, the go ahead, and the client is already sold. Very important, my next point, always include the terms of reference. And when it comes to the TORs, here we are talking about what is this consultancy about? Where are you starting? Where are you ending? And in between, what are the deliverables? So to use that example of a training, so I'm coming to train you on customer service. What will I do? Okay, where is the venue? Who is going to provide the resources needed? All those things, you include them in the terms of reference. And sometimes if you don't get it right at the beginning, this is where you find a lot of issues coming up. So I've been in situations where I was doing an employee satisfaction survey for this company, and they're in 3 countries. And at the very beginning, when I hadn't learned how to come up with a consulting agreement, that time we agreed on only one report. But later on, when we had done the report, the client said, oh, guess what? You've done, it's a very good report, but can you break it down? Then we did that. Then they said, is it possible you do it per department? I know you already have the data. And guess what? By the time now they were coming to that request, obvious, we did put our foot down, but would have saved ourselves a lot of time by making sure that we specify. And if the client wants additional services, additional information, you can always refer to the terms of reference, and then if they see you insist, then you tell them, yes, unfortunately this will cost you this. And because they know there's something new they're introducing, you're not going to have a lot of friction. But if you didn't have it documented, I can assure you they'll say, no, we had requested for this from the very beginning, and it looks like you're refusing to do the job, and so we are not going to pay you. Closely related to the terms of reference is our work plan. Again, this is not a deal breaker. Sometimes there are clients who require you to say, okay, we are giving you this job, but we don't want to see step by step, how are you going to execute it? What are the timelines? What are you going to do on day one? What are you going to have achieved by the end of the week? So again, it depends with the client, and the work plan is very good. For example, as when you're doing HR consultancy here, you tell a client the first output will be job descriptions, and you're looking to have it by the end of that day. We also have KPIs for you by the end of the week and something like that. So both of you, it keeps both parties accountable. On to my next point is payment terms. And here, very important, are you going to charge them a deposit? Are you going to be paid when you deliver per milestone? Or are you going to charge a deposit and only be paid at the end of the consultancy? So again, just like the terms of reference, it's very important for you to be crystal clear on how you're going to handle the issue of payment. And I'll do another video where I give my advice, my take on how do you price your services. But for now, make sure that don't send a consulting agreement that doesn't have payment terms. And another thing we add when it comes to payment terms, and this can be separate, is dispute resolution mechanism. Why? Because it's still business, and sometimes we may not see eye to eye on an issue. So ask yourself, how are you going to go about it? So nowadays is the issue of arbitration. So if you have an arbitration clause, so you can appoint an arbiter and where you present the cases. However, it's not a must. If you disagree, you can always refer to the courts and let it be known. And if there are any modalities or mechanisms that you're going to apply when it comes to dispute resolution, have them written there. And lastly, this is a contract. It's an agreement just like any other. You must also have signatures and make sure it's a decision maker who's signing that agreement. So there you have it. So it doesn't have to be flowery. You don't have to even use the services of other people, but at a minimum, that is what your consulting agreement should entail. So I do have a class where I meet aspiring consultants, and I do get to help them on how to write, business winning consulting agreement and proposals. And if you want to make sure you're not making mistakes as you start this journey of being a consultant, there's a link below with more information on the consulting class that we offer. So thank you for watching, and for more tips on how to succeed as a consultant, please subscribe.